Buenas tardes, ladies and gentlemen. Sí, soy yo, tu conservative Neo-Rican, Peter Vasquez. I hope you're having a phenomenal Tuesday, second day of the week, right? What day is today? The 27th. See, today, the 27th of August. Wow, time is truly flying by, yeah? Man, I'll tell you. So, I hope you guys liked the show yesterday because not only was I hoping to be able to highlight the importance of having understanding when dealing with people that just may seem a little different, but I also wanted to showcase leadership. Right. And leadership doesn't mean that you got to have some kind of law degree or leadership degree or any degree. It just means that you have you just have to have a passion for people. But we'll get into that here in a minute. Let's talk about observances today, see? And don't forget, 346-3000. I'm also on all the social medias. Listen, the only thing you can't hear in social media is the commercials. But hey, you know what? That's okay, I would assume. Although I do have some of the best sponsors. So listen, Ryan Murphy and Associates, Rock Auto over on Ridge Road and others. And my others, listen, go out, Flower City Auto, get your cars repaired. Check those people out. But today, being observed in the United States is it's called National Just Because Day. Yeah, check that out. National Just Because Day. And the thing is, it's actually pretty cool, right? It's a unique, playful holiday that encourages people to step outside of their daily routines and do something unexpected or spontaneous simply because they feel like it, right? But look at these statistics though, and this is why I chose to highlight this today. And I strongly encourage you to do something today just because. Right? I mean, don't go getting yourself in trouble and just because going and giving, someone the opposite sex a big kiss and a hug, that might get you in trouble, might even get you in jail. But look at these statistics and why it's so important for you to just kind of be spontaneous. And let's not forget, having the ability to be spontaneous and literally just do something off the cuff, regardless of what it is, truly and absolutely defines freedom. But spontaneous activities, right, they reduce stress levels. Check this out. 2018 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who engage in spontaneous activities reported a decrease in stress levels by 30%. Now, I'll tell you, my wife and I, my beautiful bride, my Chrissy, I love you so much, Christine Dimo Vasquez. You are truly an angel. And I'll tell you, the fact that you're married to me, you've already got those wings. But we're very notorious for doing spontaneous things. Like out of the blue, we'd say, hey, let's just take off for a couple of days. And obviously we meet our obligations or we'll go and do something just because. Sometimes on vacation, we'll go to and grab some cash, maybe some dollar bills or $5 bills, and we'll just walk around the different neighborhoods of wherever we're vacationing at and just kind of sharing some wealth, right? I mean, it's those spontaneous things. A survey conducted by the American Psychological Association found that 67% of respondents reported feeling happier after doing something spontaneous or out of the ordinary, right? Another study found, this one by the University of Texas, found that a spontaneous mindset can increase creative problem-solving abilities by 25%. Can you imagine? See, this is why I strongly believe in an employee-driven model. This is why I strongly believe when you engage employees, when you engage your peers, right? And you challenge them and you work with them and you do spontaneous things like bring a cup of coffee or a pizza, like recognize someone's birthday or something semi-spontaneous. Right? It does. And you encourage them to be spontaneous. Having an employee come up to me and saying, hey, boss man, I got an idea. And I think that this idea is valid because of this. right? And you're like, whoa, make it happen. See, that increases problem solving abilities. And I don't know about you, but I prefer to solve a problem than be part of the problem. I also prefer to like be part of the solution instead of becoming a victim of whatever that problem is. And the thing is this, right? Another study from Cornell University revealed that couples, right, who regularly engage in spontaneous activity altogether reported higher levels of satisfaction in their relationships and intimacy. And the thing is, if you think about it, I mean, it increases endorphin levels, right? So if you think about it, doing spontaneous things kind of keeps those juices rolling. And when you're spontaneous, because you didn't plan out every detail, it forces your brain to work in ways that it's not used to. Take advantage of today, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I'm not encouraging you to, kind of screw your employer here, but listen, take a day off, take a mental health day. Not my employees, by the way, if you're listening. Just kidding. Bring flowers to a loved one, and I mean bring it to them, not delivered. Take that time off of work, go buy some flowers at Weggies or someplace else and just take it to them, or check it out, try a new hobby. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, be grounded in the fact that if you go ahead and you enjoy the National Just Because Day, right, you are absolutely celebrating and promoting the freedoms that we have here in the United States to do something different and unexpected of our choosing. But listen, it doesn't end there. Today is also Rainbow Bridge Remembrance Day. Now I know some of you guys are probably thinking, what the heck is that, right? Now I had to kind of look into this a little deeper because I'm like, Rainbow Bridge, are we talking about the one in Canada? Because there's one there too going from the United States, and I'm going to address that in a sec. But this Rainbow Bridge Remembrance Day has nothing to do with that bridge in particular. It has to do with a day to honor and remember the pets that have passed away, right? Providing an opportunity for pet owners to kind of reflect on the joy and just really the spontaneity. Is that right? Is that a word? Spontaneity? Anyways, the spontaneousness of their pets, because pets are pretty spontaneous. At least I know mine are. Did you know that according to the American Pet Products Association, approximately 70% of U.S. households own pets? Listen, that equates to about 90.5 million homes, right? The Human Animal Bond Research Institute reports that 74% of pet owners believe that their mental health has improved because of their pets. 80% feel less lonely with a pet by their side, right? And just so you know, this whole Rainbow Bridge, the concept of it in regards to pets, right? It's a metaphorical place where pets wait for their owners after passing away, eventually being reunited in the afterlife. Now, I think that's pretty cool because, again, I love animals. I love my Eli and my Kelly. Eli, the security, the chief of security over at the YSL stations. Again, they're just big babies who want to be loved, and the loyalty. Can you imagine if human beings, right? Okay, I'm not saying we're dogs, right? But can you imagine if human beings behaved like animals? Not just dogs. I favor dogs, but not just dogs. Um, the kind of world that we would have today. Imagine if when our kids came home, all mom and dads were at the door wagging their tails, so excited for their kids. Can you imagine the mindset, the cultural shift that our society, that our young people, the kind of courage that you would instill in them, the kind of concept of love, if we all just kind of learned something from our own very own pets, right? And treated them. Now, look, I don't know about the whole metaphor of the Rainbow Bridge or if my pets are going to be waiting there for me. I do believe this, though. And 346-3000, you can challenge me on this if you want. But I strongly believe that our pets have a soul. I believe that anything that cries, that has feelings, that listen, if you hit a dog, it whimpers. If you die, they cry. If you they're excited to see you. If you neglect them, they're quick to come and seek attention, just like a little kid. Listen, call it what you want. And I'm going to restate what I stated a while ago when I talked about animals. If you don't have the time, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the patience, if you don't have the space, right? Please don't get an animal. And if you're going to get an animal, consider adoption. There's so many animals that have just been left aside, um, that can use a good and loving home. So look, Rainbow Bridge, like I said before, there is one. It goes between the it spans the Niagara River between the United States and Canada. And I mean, aside from the fact that it's National Rainbow Day in regards to our pets, right? I did want to highlight this bridge because this bridge has been kind of the the central location for a lot of movements, a lot of demonstrations, a lot of marching, a lot of culture has been shifted by activities that took place in this bridge. For example, the Civil Rights March in 1965. Right, and that's a march that took place in the Rainbow Bridge right there in that between Niagara and Canada's Niagara. It was organized by Canadian and American activists to highlight racial discrimination and the need for civil rights reform, which was appropriate back in 1965. How about the Vietnam War protests of 1969, right? Or the Indigenous Rights March of 1990, where the Oka crisis in 1990 is what it was, a land dispute between the Mohawk people in the town of Oka, Quebec, right? It led to solidarity protests across Canada and the United States. Is that nuts? Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of a left leaning in some of those things. Environmental protests or the Women's March in 2017, where women won the right to go topless. But yet, I don't see very many women topless. So, yo to conservative New York, and I'll be right back on the WYSL stations. Oh man, I missed that one. No way. Yeah, I'll have to take I'll look it up. Yep, Keith in the line. Yep. Welcome back to the Next Step Show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking some time to converse with me. Thank you, Keith, for calling the Next Step Show, brother. Um, those are public service announcements that you're hearing in another station, correct? I only bring it up that way is because if it was here, I am certain Luis Martinez would have been part of that. So that's the reason why I ask. And as far as him coming on the show, he just hosted a show for me a couple weeks ago. Right. Again, if it's what I'm thinking it that you're referring to, that particular things, we were asked to stick to a particular skip to focus specifically on asking people to get out to vote. Obviously, vote for us as the candidates, but that was the public service announcement. Uh, you know what? I don't 100% know. I have to assume that the station, that one of the other stations, but I don't know. But absolutely. And I have to believe that the reasons why schools don't now is because it seems that much of the curriculum that's coming out of the state is focused more on this, on this kind of like do what you're told or this is what you're going to learn. There isn't a lot of room. And a lot of people, I have to believe, are afraid to challenge. See, Keith, I think you and I, even though you may be a year or two older than me, grew up in an environment in a school system that encouraged that kind of creativity. But you're right, it's gone now. And to me, it's politics. Uh, Mhm. She absolutely. And that's interesting because we don't have to. There can be change because I believe things change, things evolve. Technology plays a role in that. Mindsets play a role in that. But what's happening is that we're not changing naturally. The change that we see happening in America today is a political ideology that's being shoved down America's throat. I mean, there's an entire culture shift. And the thing is, this has been in play for a long time. It's just that now that many are realizing what's going on, those that are perpetuating that ideology kicked it into overdrive. Frankly, I think this whole thing with COVID between you, me, and the listeners, I think it was a test to test American resilience. How would we respond to a lockdown? Because their response to COVID just seems a little bit over the top, especially once we realize that it was really impacting not a specific, but in large part the older population, which we could have put in there. Our kids could have been in school. Shoot, the county clerk's office could have immediately gone back to work under some very creative processes. No, they absolutely did not, and a lot of elected individuals, a lot of businesses, it was a missed opportunity for innovation. It was a missed opportunity to look at our society and say, we weren't expecting this, but how can we respond to something like this again without incarcerating everybody in their own home? Because that's pretty much what happened. Absolutely. Thank you, Keith. I truly appreciate the call. And the one part that Keith and I didn't talk about, it's not just schools. Listen, it's proven employers that allow their employees to be spontaneous and involved through employee engagement are employers that last forever. Mira, it is your conservative New Yorker Peter Vasquez aquí on the WISL stations. Fred Selbart, thanks for listening. Hello to you. Valerie, thanks for listening on social media. Mike Campbell, listen, we'll be right back in just a few minutes. No cambie ese dial. Oh, absolutely. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sí, aquí en the WYSL stations con tu conservative Nuyorican. Sí, el señor Peter Vasquez. Loving our conversation. So, I started off earlier talking a little bit about my show yesterday. I did an on-site interview. The quality isn't always great as far as sound when you're out places. So I hope you enjoyed yesterday's show. But I'll tell you, see, I believe in working with people where they are. Sometimes metaphorically, is the saying, and sometimes actually. See, I've been wanting to capture leaders in the community that some of us sometimes, just because we don't take the time to understand them, don't see the leadership potential. And yesterday, I interviewed 5 individuals, right, from Campaign D, 2 founders, some members that are all working together. Listen, we had artists there. We had an author there, an individual holding politicians well versed, two leaders that work and live independent, who help create and shape this organization. These are leaders. You know what? Let's go into what leadership is, right? I mean, what do leaders do? What do leaders do? First, let's look at the difference between a manager, right, and a leader, because a management position is extremely important, and a management position is definitely intended to manage people. But you see, these 5 individuals that I interviewed yesterday at Campaign D headquarters are 5 leaders that are teaching others how to be leaders and managers as well. Now, check this out. Each 5 of those individuals, right, are all on the autism spectrum. Yes. And like one of them said, I believe it may have been Jason, maybe, who had said that, if people just stopped and just got to know them, they would realize that, they sometimes may seem a little different, but they're on their game and a little bit of understanding. So let's look at leadership versus management quick, and then I'm going to get into the details of leadership, because I'll tell you what's going on politically with some of the reports and things that the hocus pocus is saying, things that the county clerk says, all these people, right? It's not leadership that they're doing. And I want you to know the difference. A manager manages. Check this out. Leadership, right? It defines a vision. It's inspiring. It guides people. It's never about them. Where management does more of the execution, right? More of this is my team and I'm going to manage them, right? And focus on things like making sure I stay within the budget that I was given, controlling expenses, and managing the team. But let me tell you what leaders does. And if you heard my show yesterday, right, I asked that you kind of reflect a little bit of what we talked about and what we saw these young men and ladies out working. But a leader, right? A leader provides clear vision and direction for the group or organization. I think we could agree that 346 3000, right? Let me know what you think. If you consider yourself a leader and you don't agree with any of these, or you don't know the difference, or you don't agree with what I explained is the difference between management and leading, please, 346 3000, right? Uh, Leaders, right? They create the roadmap for helping everybody to understand the goals and the objectives, right? They ensure that efforts are aligned and purposeful, right? They're truthful. They have integrity. They're known for the integrity. That's how they get people to follow them, right? Listen, when I'm given a situation, that I know I can't do myself, when I have to shift to the to hiring people, I look for leaders or leadership ability, people that have these characteristics, very much like the 5 young adults that I interviewed yesterday, right? 5 young adults that through something that can be debilitating have chosen to lead, right? They chose to inspire and motivate others. They chose to set examples and encourage others. They chose to elevate the performance and morale of those that they lead and those that they want to help understand their plight, right? They foster positive and productive environments. These are 5 people on the autism spectrum, all unique in their own way, that many of us just set off because they're a little different. Many of us look at, like one of them had said that, even and the early onset, when he was being diagnosed, doctors were already, I think he used the word judging, right? Setting him to the side as people that'll never be able to do anything. Right? That ain't leadership. Leadership is what these people are doing, right? Those 5 young people, unlike our elected officials, right, make critical decisions that significantly impact, right, the success or the failure of their organization. Campaign D, campaignd.com, by the way, right? They assess situations, they weigh options, they choose best courses of actions, often under pressure and with limited information. Where do you stand on that spectrum? And I don't mean the autism spectrum, I mean the leadership one. Are you a manager or are you a leader? Right? Do you provide guidance and support to team members? Do you help them develop their own skills? Do you help them overcome barriers and grow in their roles? Do you nurture talent and foster a culture of continuous improvement, something called life learning? Check it out. Those 5 individuals do all that, right? Leaders, they play a key role in building trust within their organization. They're transparent, like I said earlier, and have integrity, consistent, they're fair, right? They create environments where collaboration thrives and individuals, and this is important because as much as we talk about teamwork, teams are comprised of individuals with their own mind. I always said we've got one planet, but however many billion worlds, right? However many billion people is how many worlds, because each individual sees something from their own perspective. Right? Leaders hold themselves accountable and others accountable for their actions and their decisions. They ensure goals are met. Right? I'm going to go back on the fact that they have integrity. Leadership isn't about the leader. It's always about somebody else. Again, yesterday, 5 individuals that many of us would say, I'm not going to listen to them. They have nothing to offer. But when you stop and you take the time to listen and watch and understand, you're like, wait a minute, those leaders are actual leaders. But I want to focus a little bit on the different types of leadership, right? Because as we get into this political cycle this year, we need to make sure that we're paying close attention to these leadership characteristics. Because the question that I have for you is, forget about party politics for a minute. The question that I have for you is, do you want to elect a manager or do you want to elect a leader? Do you want somebody to manage, right, the office that they're running for, or somebody to lead? Because remember, leading equals innovation. Leading equals 100% customer service, or at least as close to it. Leading means setting political ideologies aside. But there are different kinds of leaders too. There are different kinds of leaders. What kind of leader are you if you think you're a leader? Are you a transactional leader, right? Are you a leader that whose style is focused on the exchange of a reward for performance, right? If you do this, I'll give you this. If you don't do this, well, I'm going to punish you. Right? Do you create clear structures that people must follow with your goals, right? And expectations that you set? Is compliance rewarded and non-compliance punished? Do you emphasize performance over results, right? Or focus on tax processes and outcomes, right? Do you use formal authority and positions of power? Because if you do, and you consider yourself a leader, and you actually have people following you, and you're creating a vision and direction, excuse me, I apologize for that. I'm coming down with a cold, I believe. Right? So ask yourself, are you a transactional leader? a step up from a manager. But do you focus on the transactional part of leadership, kind of like what we see in politics, kind of like we see in the county clerk's office, right? Or do you consider yourself like I do, like I consider myself, a relational leader? Someone, right, who focuses on building relationships with their team members. Someone who encourages spontaneity, if that's a word. Someone who encourages an employee-driven model, mutual respect. Hey, I may be the boss, right? And I may be your boss, and there's definitely a clear understanding there, right? But I trust you and I want to collaborate with you. And like Frederick Douglass said, I'll work with anybody to do good and nobody to do bad. I'll collaborate with anybody who says, Peter, I got an idea, and I think that you would be able to help me put this to fruition. Show me your heart, sir, is all I want to know. Why are we doing it? That's a relational leadership, right? A relational leader focuses on motivating others through a shared vision, not just their vision. It's interpersonal connections, right? You prioritize that whole emotional intelligence that I've talked about on the show oh so many times, right? You encourage that discussion, that dialogue, so that you can find the common ground and you're not stuck on something, and you definitely come down from that ivory tower. You definitely come down from that do as I say and believe what I tell you. Something that I do not accept in any way, shape, or form. Mira, we're going to come right back in just a minute or two, and I'm going to kind of show you why it is that electing leaders is so important. We'll be right back right here on the Conservative New Yorican. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I went too long on that one or not. All right. And music's at 120, right? Okay. Thank you. Hey, Bob, let that play for about 10 seconds. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. See? Why? Because, like I've said before, right? Next steps is absolutely a family affair. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Next Step Show with Peter Vasquez, aquí on the WYSL stations. And I spent that time talking about leadership, not just to highlight the importance of it, not just to highlight individuals that many of us would be like, oh no, those people can't be leaders, are leaders. All you got to do is have a heart. But let me show you why it's important, right? Why is it that coming into an election, we should be talking about leadership? Right? You should be asking these elected officials that are running, where do you stand on leadership? What does that mean to you? Are you a transactional leader? Are you a, jeepers, of course, the relational leader, right? What kind of leader are you? Lorraine Parr, thank you for your note. Yes, the voiceless of Verona Street at the animal shelter. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to restate that. There are animals that need you to give them a home, right? Call the Verona Street or the homeless shelter there and let them know. But I want to share something with you why leadership is so important, right? Recently, our Hocus Pocus Governor Hocus Pocus, the magician, right? She highlighted a statewide reduction in shootings, right? With the Rochester area seeing a notable 35% decrease, with Yonkers, Nassau County, and Suffolk County also experiencing substantial declines ranging from 32 to 57%. Right? She says that, oh, these are the law enforcement initiatives that we're doing and community programs, right? That's impacting public safety. Boy, how much further from reality can this person be? Seriously. How much further from reality can this person be? Because, see, a leader wouldn't sit there and tell you something that isn't true. Because although statistically they may have seen some numbers drop since COVID, the problem is if this decrease that we're seeing, that they're claiming in Rochester by 35%, is truly, truly accurate, then why are we still with our eyeballs, right, and our hands and our feelings? Why are people still afraid, right? Why did two people die at a public park here in Rochester, New York? Why did a 92-year-old man die after being after two kids in a police chase and there were two guns found? Why? Well, I can tell you why. Because it's trickery, because they have a transactional leadership style. They're going to tell you what you want to hear, right? And they keep it in a transaction so it doesn't have to be expounded. Because remember, relational leadership, that relationship between you and me, requires me to give you information, requires me to show you where my opinion came from, right? So right now, the only thing that's happening, the only thing that this reduction in shootings, right? Not it's an issue of cause and effect, right? They're saying that they did this, and that as a result, this happened, and I don't think that's true. 346 3000. Tell me what you think. I absolutely don't think that's true. Why? Because again, we see what's happening. They talk about there was a sharp rise during the pandemic, right? And that it was an anomaly. But Minga, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if these rates from what we're seeing actually drop 35%, then I've got to ask, I've got to ask, how bad were we before? I mean, we know the answer, obviously. Anyways, according to the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, the state saw a 27% decrease in shootings. See, play on words, from 22 to 23, and 40% decrease. And, this is all hogwash is what it is. Look, right? We put a focus on things like that, and I say we, the elected officials, because there is no leadership, right? And more importantly, because there's a lot of dishonest political ideology pushing a lot of these reports that are going through, where they're trying to tell you that, oh, things are great, shootings, right? Because crime overall is high. But they forget to mention, on the other hand, that Monroe County has one of the most significant housing crises, and no one's doing anything about it. 130 households with children recorded in the latest point in time. The point in time count, and I love doing this, right? Is where you every county goes out and they literally count people that are homeless at that moment. They do it at the beginning of the year and they do it at the end of the year. But instead of focusing on false narratives like crime is really down, right, by painting a picture that shows cause and effect when really isn't a complete show, right? How about doing things like having creative solutions and talking about promote affordable housing development through deregulation or tax incentives for property owners? Like I said recently, how about eliminating or significantly reducing the property tax and elderly? Hey, listen, I'm short on time here. I did want to talk a little bit of, again, this is leadership, and I was at church, at a church on this Sunday, and the pastor had invited other pastors to talk, and the whole concept, the whole topic was from the crack house to the pulpit, and I was like, whoa, what does that mean? But check this out. Um, 1,065 opiate related emergency department visits in 2022, 285 opiate overdoses that happened around that same time. But the transformation stories, right here in Monroe County, is vast. People that have hit the all-time low in their life, near death, lost everything, have said, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? And you know what changed their lives is God. God, country, family, always prepared. Always prevails all the time. The number of people that have ended recidivism through recovery when they chose to put God first is significant. And check this out. Every single anonymous, whether it's narcotics or alcohol anonymous or any of the other ones, all have a spiritual component. There was at least 5 or 8 people that I heard at this sermon that gave their stories, not just drug addicts, even major drug dealers. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, today's show, again, I hope you enjoyed it. It's all about be a leader, be a leader, be a leader, elect leaders. And Mira, if you haven't already memorized it, say it with me. Leadership is the beacon that guides me, for it's through selfless service that I illuminate the way for others to achieve their own greatness. Y mira, nunca te olvides, la voz de libertad de WYSL, Señor D'Angelo, Peter Vasquez, your conservative New Rican on the Next Step Show. Siempre, siempre te amamos. You too, my friend. See you Friday. Correct. Bye.